Hello, and welcome to another episode of Talking Tropes. I'm Hannah.
I'm David. Hannah, this morning I woke up and I was on the set of Seinfeld on NBC.
Oh my
What's
gosh,
going on?
David,
Oh
you're still there.
no! Now I'm on the TARDIS. Oh no! Now I'm on the set of Bob's Burgers,
Oh
the
no,
Bob's Burger
David.
Show on Fox.
David, we already did crossover episodes. I think you're trapped in the TV.
I'm trapped in the TV. It's blowing my mind. That's right, guys. We're talking about episodes of TV where characters on TV are sucked into the TV, and sometimes they'll bounce around to different shows, or sometimes they'll realize that their whole life is a show. Sometimes crazy stuff happens, but it's all about analyzing the way that TV imagines itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's meta. This one's meta.
It's
We're
meta.
going into
Yeah,
it.
I guess we're always attracted to those kind of meta jokes and meta episodes, but I think this
Right.
one is like particularly interesting because never before have I heard so many TV characters say, "I wish life was more like a TV show," when they are in fact in a TV show.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of these are very like wish fulfillment y
Be careful what you wish for, kind of things.
yeah, that sort of lesson. It was honestly very fun. This is a trope that I've loved for a while now. I think my first exposure to it was definitely in cartoons as a kid. Um, where does your interest in the trope come
I,
from?
I think it definitely comes from those cartoons and specifically Fairly Odd Parents' Channel Chasers, which I think is a
Yeah,
lot of people's connection to this trope because it sort of incorporates everything that we're going to talk about today. Do
yeah.
you want to start with that one actually?
Yeah, why don't we? Yeah, I would say Channel Chasers is a big reason for me for loving this trope, but I would also say the Teen Titans
Yeah,
episode, the original.
right.
That's one of my faves. But yeah, let's start with Channel Chasers. Let's talk about it. Let's do the big one.
Yeah. So, I mean, thematically, this one is about everything that we're going to be talking about today. There's a bit about how cartoons rot kids' brains, about
Right.
how children's television encourages kids to reenact violence and do dangerous stunts.
Mm-hmm.
And then Timmy remarks, like, oh, like, there's no parents in a lot of these TV shows. Like,
Right.
I want to go where there's no parents telling me what to do.
Right, which is a classic Fairly Odd Parents move, like parents suck, let's get out of here. Kids
Right.
rule.
And then additionally there's the reference to the fact that like TV is this kind of static unchanging thing, especially
Hmm.
cartoons, that like the characters in cartoons don't usually age and they don't grow up, they never change, so television becomes a metaphor for Arrested Development,
Yeah.
not the TV show but the concept, the psychological concept. um, there's a lot of discussion, that you can find in like theoretical, works about how television uh, constructs time for people and how people measure time by TV. Um,
Yeah.
I'll probably try and tweet out some good sources to look at if you're interested in like academic writing on it. But we're here to talk about Channel Chasers.
Yeah, we are. So, I mean, should we summarize the plot real fast just in
Yeah,
case someone
yeah,
doesn't know? So Timmy Turner, keeps getting in trouble for doing dangerous stunts, and his mean babysitter Vicky is framing him for doing other terrible things around the house, and so he decides to run away into the TV with a magic remote. There's also a second magic remote that is created that Vicky ends up stealing.
there's
Uh,
also time travel in Alec Baldwin, but I mean, we
yes,
don't necessarily need to go into detail about that.
I truly forgot that Alec Baldwin plays grown-up Timmy Turner.
This was like 2 years before 30 Rock dropped or something. Like he was in his Thomas the Tank Engine phase, where he could not get work. He was too busy punching uh, paparazzos.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, But yeah, so Timmy escapes into the TV and is trying to find a good channel to call his new home. Meanwhile, he is being chased by a masked figure from the future. Um, and it turns out that that masked figure is himself as a grown-up who doesn't remember anything, because once you lose your fairies, you lose your memory of all the stuff you did with your fairies.
Right. So it's a good way to sort of tie in the television themes with the overarching theme of the show, which is about growing up, wish fulfillment, be careful what you wish for, all of
Yeah.
these kind of things.
Yeah.
Belief and faith in fairies, which I guess doesn't really play into it, but
Right.
it's something.
And sort of the main antagonist is, of course, the evil babysitter Vicky, who is also channel surfing through the TV
Right.
and wants to go to Dictator Week so that she can
Right.
learn
She's
how to
going to the
take over the
History
world.
Channel basically
Yeah.
to change history, which is an
Yeah.
interesting conception of how television and the real world are supposed to interact.
I mean, History Channel's on board with it. Like ancient aliens, here it comes.
Right. So there were some other themes that were kind of touched on throughout here. Like there's the idea of like TV as a childhood memory that is like important to family, because family is such an important theme in this special.
Right.
So like when they get to the Rankin Bass holiday specials, the stop motion,
Yeah.
Rudolph and whatever. Timmy is like talking to his future self, and they're reminiscing about how much they love their parents and watching TV with them. So it's at the same time that TV is like rotting your brain and causing you to do violent things, it's also like something that brings people together and, places you temporally in your childhood.
Right. And, the shows that you watch as a kid stay with you sometimes. I mean, we're proof of that, if nothing else. But like he talks with his older self about the fact that like, oh, I remember watching this with mom and dad, or I loved watching that show, it was so senseless and violent. And the fact that if you loved it as a kid, you still sort of have fondness for it as an adult,
right,
when you sort of have that nostalgia. Do we
but
want to
then there's like a weird bit where he's talking about how characters on a lot of these shows, the parents are all either stupid or absent, which I guess is referring to like they did a parody of Peanuts called Walnuts, and they did a parody of The Simpsons with no name, where just all the adults in town are stupid. But it seems weird to make that point when your show is Fairly Odd Parents, where the parents are as dumb and absent as possible for the premise of the show.
Right, exactly.
The whole premise is that they're never around and they're stupid, so they don't recognize that this babysitter is torturing their kid.
And also, he has magical fairies.
Right, but that's why he has magical fairies.
Right.
So it's like weird to make that a point of comparison between your show and television. And that's something that, I find often is like the criticisms of television will often apply to the television show making those criticisms.
Oh, yeah. Do you ever remember those Get Out and Play ads that would be on like Nickelodeon? Where they would just be like, turn off the TV and go outside. And it's
I thought those were good,
But they're inherently antithetical to what Nickelodeon ultimately really wants you to do, which is to sit inside and watch its ads all day.
It's obviously, for PR to make it seem like, we're not just trying to suck your kids into the TV to live in TV world. We want them to experience life as well. But, knowing in the back of their head that kids are still going to watch because TV's great.
Right. Do we really quick want to run through some of the parodies that this one does?
A lot of these we're going to see over and over again. Right. So there was a Jetsons parody, a Flintstones parody. Those you're going to see in other ones that are cartoons.
Yeah.
But a lot of these are pretty specific to Fairly OddParents because it's only doing cartoon parodies, and with each one comes a new like animation style, which is kind of interesting to see Butch Hartman's like interpretation of what Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball looks like.
Right. It's definitely
any other ones that you wanted to point out in particular?
Artistic. I mean, I just love Maho Mushi as the Dragon Ball parody. It's great. The Futurellis as the Jetsons.
Yeah, it's good. I get it.
Like, I don't know, they're just great. I one that I didn't get as a kid is the politically inaccurate, which is supposed to be politically incorrect, like a right?
Show. Yeah, and then it becomes like a wrestling show. It's sort of
you know, we already said Rankin Bass, Rudolph, Simpsons.
Right. I mean, the point is like he has to find a reason to leave all of these shows.
Right.
So like they all have to be portrayed as bad in some way, or they just have the villain come in as like an excuse to like chase him out.
Right.
So I mean, I think like that one happens in Snooper Dog and the Clue Crew, which is obviously Scooby-Doo.
I love adolescent genetically altered Karate Cast.
Snoop Dogg, and that's the joke.
Yeah.
And they do all the tropes, the unmasking, you meddling kids, the chase scenes through the different I think when it comes to Hanna-Barbera cartoons, like they're really common to be parodied because Hanna-Barbera basically dominated television animation. They invented television animation,
right?
And then they dominated it for 40 years before Saturday morning cartoon.
Right. I think one thing that's really interesting about this trope is that it's a relatively new one. And I think it has to be by nature, you know, like this is a trope that started at the earliest in the 80s, if not the 90s. And then I think really hit its stride in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I would call it postmodern to some extent. It's sort of an example of like the hyper real. It's you're viewing television through the eyes of television. It's a simulation of a simulation, basically.
Right.
And everything is just sort of reduced to these signifiers that represent television genre. You know, sometimes we're not seeing a direct parody of a show, but just like
50s sitcoms
as we understand them. And why do we understand them that way? Because of a particular sitcom that came out, you know, way before we were born.
And felt very
understand.
Right, genre defining for whatever people. But I think it's also this idea that, you know, TV was such a new medium for such a long time that those signifiers hadn't been developed yet. And then by the time we get to the 90s, 2000s, those signifiers are really codified and are more in place. And so there's, and we've had an entire generation, if not two at that point, who have grown up watching TV, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so
but also just TV like didn't feel like it was able to be self-referential for a while because it was new.
And you can't do the meta thing of going like, we're on a TV show, wink, you know?
Yeah, people trust their audience a lot more now. They're more willing to accept the fourth wall joke. You know, they're everywhere.
So many fourth wall jokes.
I mean, like, I think the idea of looking at the fourth wall and being like, oh no, I'm in a TV show, and kind of implying that you're seeing the audience through there is such a weird idea visually, because obviously TV, they're not looking at a particular audience, they're looking at you, the particular viewer.
Right.
But you know in the back of your mind that they're also looking at every other viewer, right?
Right. It's definitely a little weird.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot in the Teen Titans one, if you want to jump into that one.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's definitely interesting because you know, as you were saying, it leads to sort of the same shows or the same genre of shows being the ones that sort of get parodied over and over again. So yeah.
Also, something that you might see in a lot of these is a lot of them start, or some part of it starts with some villain doing the opening to the outer limits, the I control the horizontal, the vertical kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just like a pretty basic joke to do if you have a character whose power is controlling television.
Yeah.
Do
Can
the outer
we,
limits opening.
speaking of that, why don't we jump over to Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go,
Right.
which has
Sort of
not
discuss these in
one of
tandem.
these, but 3 different sucked into the TV type episodes.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
probably
like
even more that I didn't notice. They're Teen Titans Go is so obsessed with the fourth wall and with
yeah,
the idea that they are a show that they kind of just do this over and over and over again, and they never seem to stop thinking it's funny.
right.
But they weren't the first to do this. The original Teen Titans show had one. It was called episode 257-494, aka Don't Touch That Dial. Sort of
Yeah.
self-referentially talking about production codes and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And everything kind of ties back to Control Freak, this villain who's like a nerd.
A nerd.
There's no other way to say it. He's like a fanboy. And so he sort of imagines himself as the greatest villain on television, and he just invades other television shows to be villainous.
Well, right. So he finds a way to basically zap himself into TV world. And I think this is a good episode to sort of talk about like how TV world functions in these different shows, because in some shows, TV world is its own world. Whether or not the show is like a real live show that's taking place on Earth, like a nonfiction show, or if it's a fictional one. And like it sort of gets a little bit confusing there because sometimes they're on sets or sometimes they're actually in the real world, or other times it's not.
I think TV trope sort of defines the real world ones as it's a trope refugee from TV land, sort of the opposite of trapped in TV land, but still relevant for sure.
Well, I mean, like where, so like in Teen Titans, they also get sucked into the TV, obviously. And at one point, Raven is on a football field and is like actually tackled by like all of the people.
That's a really common joke in all of these things. I don't understand how it works. Okay, so is there a separate football game happening in real life where she doesn't appear and get tackled?
Exactly.
Or is she appearing where the camera is pointed? That's why a lot of these seem to stray away from reality TV.
Right.
And game shows and these things. But a lot of the cartoons don't.
Yeah. The cartoons just embrace it because it's so absurd by nature that they're just like screw it.
Right.
Because in this one they also do like a sort of stunt fest, like X Games / Bear Grylls kind of crossover.
Right. Well, the whole point of that one is just that they have Robin going on skis over a big jump, and then there's a shark saying that the show has jumped the shark. It's season 4. We're entering a new realm of implausibility for Titans, which is great.
Yeah, it's delightful. So there's that one. There's also one where they appear on a news broadcast and they appear to be in a studio of some kind, but again, it's also not clear if they're actually in the studio or if they are somehow like in the TV version of the studio. But so
it's confusing. It's like a talk show. It kind of looks like Charlie Rose. I think
it's just like the evening news. Oh well, there is a Charlie Rose parody as well. Yes, but they end up on the evening news, and this is where they find out sort of part of the moral of the story ish, where they find out that because of the interference of the waves that Control Freak has done, it's making people's brains actually rot from watching TV.
It's a pretty basic joke, like TV rots your brain in the actual logic of the show.
Right.
Where we typically think of TV and especially cartoons as being kind of such simple media that it just turns your brain off.
Right.
So I think
And
it's interesting that TV is conceiving of itself that way, and so it kind of makes it work when at the end of the episode, um, Beast Boy, who has spent his whole life just watching TV, his knowledge of sci-fi and his genre awareness is what helps save the day. And so they
yeah.
appear back in Titan's Tower, and they're like, "So I guess the moral is you shouldn't watch so much TV." Wait, but we only succeeded because Beast Boy
He's like
watches so much
watching so much
TV.
TV. Yeah.
So I guess we didn't learn anything.
Which is a great ending to just like a delightful episode where it's just like chock full of parodies. This is another one like Channel Chasers that just really like packs them all in. We get James
but there's
Bond,
much more of a focus on this one on capturing a genre rather than parodying individual TV shows, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
There's like
they do
a
monster
kid
movies.
show parody, which is like a pelican.
I love it. There's some great rhymes and people popping in and out of the cartoon world as the pelican rhymes.
Right, and then there's like a Barney parody where he's like a big blue aardvark. And,
the sloppy mess word. It's like
right,
slimed.
the word thing, and then they get somebody says
oatmeal.
like the magic word of the day, and then they get oatmeal dropped on them, which is a reference to You Can't Do That on Television, the Nickelodeon sitcom, which then became the getting slimed
phenomenon.
Thing.
Yeah. They do Wile they do the Roadrunner. They do Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner.
Because you got to capture, like Looney Tunes were a huge chunk of television programming for a lot of those early days. And they I think they really like capture everything in this particular episode, because they also talk about like soap operas. They have a Leave It to Beaver parody, which you'll see in like all of these. Who represent
Jeepers.
50s sitcoms in their entirety.
And like wholesomeness.
They do a game show. They do the news, we said. They have some commercials, which I think is interesting, which types of commercials they choose to parody.
They do like a drug commercial for Raven's sort of magic catchphrase, Azeroth, Metro Zinthos, New Blue Zinthos.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a drug name, I guess. Zinthos.
It does. I love it. I could still quote that to this day. Maybe that's stupid, but I love it.
Another thing that appears in a lot of these is that color test thing that will appear if, they have to test the signal, I guess. What is that for?
I think it was like it would happen if they like if the signal went down, or if the channel wasn't receiving a signal. That was sometimes the image that would appear. But I love the way they use it here, in that they like use the individual panels to like slap a creature around a little bit and like basically break it apart. Fun.
I think like the idea is that a lot of the representations of TV in these parodies is highlighting the artificiality of television.
Yeah, for sure.
So the contrived plots of soap operas, the overly wholesomeness of 50s sitcoms. It's about like pointing to how television is unlike real life, so it's sort of pointing to it and laughing at how fake it feels, which I don't know if that is even true. Is it fake? Is it more fake than like movies or books or anything like that?
Right. I mean, I don't know that it necessarily is. I think it's just pointing out the artificiality of narrative. And I think, like this one also takes shots at movies too. It's just movies that happen to be on TV.
Right. Well, but they're contextualizing it in that these are only television movies. And I've counted some on this list where they do get sucked into the TV, and it is mostly like 50s horror movies or those B movies, because that was also a huge part of television programming, and probably what a lot of people associate with their childhoods in terms of TV. These like late night horror movie marathon.
Right.
the creature from the Black Lagoon, you know,
which
all the
we
Universal horror movie monsters.
yeah, which we talked about a little bit in our Halloween specials
Yeah,
block. But yeah, so this really does it touches on everything. It's just absolutely delightful, you know,
right.
no big lessons, no big plot. It's
Nothing.
just straight up like fluff, but it's
Right.
the most delicious fluff. I love it.
But Control Freak is like such a good character for this because he's both genre aware, he's despicable, you know, he's easy to hate, and he's
Right.
a great villain to just destroy the fourth wall completely, which is what they use him for in the reboot of Teen Titans Go.
Yeah.
What do you think of
I
these episodes?
these are great. I So the first one that he shows up in is he basically it's sort of like a response to the fan criticisms of
Which
Teen
is something
Titans
that
Go.
that show never does. They do
Right.
it all the time. It's like every other episode is just responding to fan criticism or, you know, people who hate them.
Yeah. I did think that this was sort of a clever way to do it. I didn't hate it. And
Yeah,
I kind of liked the way that they sort of cast Control Freak as this like very possessive fan
yeah.
of the Teen Titans, and you know, how it sort of
But
paints
also as
him
like a
as like
studio executive, which is
right
interesting.
as someone who was sort of responsible for rebooting them in the first place.
Right. But
And
is now
so,
upset that they haven't won him any awards and that they
right,
haven't, you know, performed as well as the original show.
right, or with the same demographic at least.
Sure, yeah.
And
I mean, they've
so
obviously done very well for
he
themselves.
basically tricks them into turning into like a Cal Arts type, like,
Right. He criticizes them for their humor being too lowbrow, so they switch to
right,
doing like puns about aristocracy,
right,
and their animation style is too lazy, so they switch to the CalArts style, and
and
their voice
with a
acting
higher
is
frame
too
rate,
right. Well, he talks about their voice acting
screaming.
being too screamy, so they switch to this like overly performative Shakespearean uh,
Dude who just does
personality.
everyone's lines. And basically he tricks them into rebooting themselves. But then the episode ends with them deciding to just do a
Saving the world
fart,
with fart jokes.
yeah, just a fart chorus at him, and then
Yeah,
it reverts back to normal, and they continue as usual, which, you know, you got to give them
good for them.
consistency.
Yeah. Um, there are definitely other Control Freak episodes in between, but they're mostly playing with the idea that he's like a studio executive trying to run their lives through the show.
Yeah.
The one where he actually zaps them into the TV, and I think this is the only time he does this, is in the season 5 episode Cartoon Feud.
Yeah.
This is
Where
a weird one.
it's like Family Feud, but he decides to bring in the Teen Titans and then the Scooby Gang,
Right.
uh, and make them like fight. And the Scooby Gang are just like, "Why are we here? These guys seem fine. Like, I don't understand
Well, they're
what all
just
the
being
hubbub is."
polite, is the joke. Like, you know,
Right,
they're so wholesome compared to modern cartoons. But I don't
right.
know. It's like they're loud and obnoxious too.
Yeah,
Scooby
and
Gang.
like I don't know, the Scooby Gang, especially in like the newer versions of the cartoon, certainly have a lot more personality than like the original Hanna-Barbera animation did.
Yeah, they were just pretty
Um,
jeepers and golly and gosh back then.
right, right. Now they tend to have real personalities and what have you. Um, but yeah, so basically, you know, all the answers to the Family Feud questions are like, why do the Teen Titans suck so much? Like,
Right,
what's the most annoying things about the Teen Titans? What are all the ways that the Scooby Gang is better than the Teen Titans? And, you know, they
right.
all have to try to
And
like
then it's just in the
answer.
format of a Family Feud episode, which
Yeah,
is bizarre. I don't know why you would do it that way.
yeah.
But okay.
It was fine. I guess it parodied you know, Scooby
Game
Doo,
shows.
and continued to again point out the criticisms that the fans have of the reboot.
Right. But again, it's like being sucked into the TV means that you're a TV show commenting about how your life is not enough like this other kind of TV show. It's a sort of self-dialectic where you're saying you're positioning yourself apart from the other TV show, TV shows of history.
Yeah.
Like, we're different. We're playing things by our own rules. We're not wholesome like the Scooby Gang, which I don't know. Like, you're trying to be rebels. It's whatever.
It's definitely more postmodern. It's meta. It's irreverent. It's self-aware.
Right.
And then the last one from Teen Titans Go is TV Night. This one was weird.
Yeah, I mean, there were actually 5 of these.
Oh my God.
I'm not sure if you watched all of them.
No, but, I did not.
It's super weird. It's basically just the idea is they wanted to do shorter sketches and like ideas that weren't big enough for a full episode.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just contextualized it by having it be Batman's night off. And so he and Commissioner Gordon are watching TV.
I do have to say, I love that Batman and Commissioner Gordon are just like best friend lovers in this show.
It's a cheeky little joke. I like it.
I enjoy.
And then Alfred is like his dad telling him like it's time to go to bed.
Right. His dad nanny.
Right. But yeah, so just inexplicably all the characters on TV on every channel are the Teen Titans.
Yeah.
Why? No reason. So then like in the first one, it's just like they're just doing stuff that isn't funny enough to be a whole episode, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no real pattern. It's not making fun of television in any way.
No, it's just like short sketches.
Okay, well it's different in the rest of them because starting with TV Night 2, they start parodying like cooking shows and like My Little Pony and sitcoms, and like everything just becomes a parody of stuff. But they also have like little rap song interludes by guest musicians.
Okay.
All right, whatever. They had like a a rap song sung by Silky, their pet worm, and a rap song done by Robin's Birdarang. Okay, I don't know, whatever. They also had a song about a character that I'm not familiar with from their show called Sticky Joe, who is, I guess, a homeless man.
Oh, yes.
Who they make fun of.
Cool.
Highlights in this one are a weirdly out of time Hillbilly Moment parody. Remember the Hillbilly Moment from the Amanda Show? That was like a sketch they did?
Yeah.
So they had Robin and Starfire as the hillbillies, but then they like cut off, instead of doing a punchline, they say like, we are uneducated because of the American education system, sort of like deconstructing what a hillbilly is, which is kind of weird because no one's made a joke about hillbillies in like 5 years, 10 years.
I mean,
I can't remember.
There's definitely like redneck jokes, and
redneck jokes are different. I mean, they're very class-based, but like hillbillies are, a particular kind of class-based humor that I don't think exists anymore.
I guess I think the word hillbilly itself is out of use, but I feel like redneck and hillbilly are very closely associated.
All right. That's basically all that I have to say about Teen Titans Go. There are some other parodies in there, but they're not worth remarking on.
Yeah. So for the most part, not nearly up to the one episode punch of Teen Titans, the original.
I mean, I guess it's like they don't really explain that they're sucked into the TV, but they'd have to be, right?
They have to be.
TV parodies.
Yeah.
You just don't explain it with like any kind of logic, like all these other shows have super villains to do it.
I mean, but that's like the point of Teen Titans Go, is that like, don't look for logic in this show. It's just whatever is the most exciting, fun thing that we can put on the screen.
Yeah. I guess the other way that you can get sucked into a TV show, besides being physically sucked into the TV, like if it's not a sci-fi
or a
or
fantasy.
fantasy show, you can usually get it done with just a coma or a dream
Yep.
sequence.
Yep.
Do you want to go over some of those examples?
Yeah, let's do it. So the first one is My Name Is Earl, has like a whole subplot over across like 4 episodes.
Right. My Name Is Earl is weird that way. They really like to do the continuity thing. It's fun.
But so basically he ends up in a coma because he gets hit by a car. And as he explains it, when he's in so much pain, his mind goes to like the happiest place he can imagine, which is a 50s sitcom, basically.
Right.
But this one's interesting because it starts out as very much a 50s sitcom, but like because it includes characters from his real life, like people from his real life, it definitely feels more and more like a like even 70s sitcom.
Right. Well, this is the thing that I find interesting, right? Is like it's another example of this TV show situating itself apart from television as it existed before.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, the main point of distinction that they're making is that My Name Is Earl is about lower class, middle America individuals and not prim and proper suburban middle class, which is what sitcoms were for a really long time.
Yeah, for sure. And still continue to be for like certain.
Yeah, I mean the
shows.
Middle and the Goldbergs and yeah, whatnot for sure. But yeah, it's like My Name Is Earl is kind of bragging to itself, I guess, that like we're able to have subversive characters like the Crab Man, and, you know, Earl's bitchy ex-wife. Like,
right.
I don't know how progressive it is, but that was something that the creators were always, you know, proud of, was that they were portraying a different side of America, I guess.
Right. Yeah, so in that one, he sort of basically, he's got a dream wife in there who I think is one of the characters on the show.
Yeah, it's this character that he'd fallen in love with in the previous season. Yeah, earlier in the season.
Yeah, and, you know, hijinks sort of go on in his real life that somewhat affect what happens in, like, the sitcom version of life that's going on in his brain. And, you know, they do, like, the nosy neighbor trope and the, like, too mmany toasters as a wedding gift, like, joke.
I don't know if that's based on anything. It's just a lame joke that would be in a 50s sitcom.
It's, like, it's gotta be or something like that. You know, so they tick a lot of boxes there. He does like wacky hijinks, and they do one where they have to draw a line down the middle of the room. Classic
trope.
Classic. We should do that one sometime.
The line down the middle.
The line down the middle. And it's great. They do it over top of the baby who, you know, he of course like flips so that the soiled diaper is on his wife's side. And he's like, oh, it's on your side of the line.
Got him. Don't you wish that real life could be more like TV is kind of the sense that you're getting.
That's
then
definitely
real life infects TV and adds complication. And that's the stuff of life, you know, that's what makes life worth living kind of thing.
Right. And that's sort of what reminds him, or I guess prompts him to wake up from his coma, is that, you know, he was kind of ready to like die, like his character had grown old and he was like, wait a minute, this isn't right. This isn't how my life really is or should be. I gotta wake up. And sort of comes back to reality.
Back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
Then there's a Day by Day episode, which is a dream.
Yeah, who watches Day by Day? Anybody?
I don't know. I've never seen this before.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus's brief role before Seinfeld. But this was just an episode that was parodying the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
And it does so by having one of the characters watch a Brady Bunch marathon and then dream that he is a member of the Brady family.
Right. And this is one of those episodes that is very much along the lines of, I wish my parents were like TV parents.
Right. Because they're punishing me because I didn't study for my test and I just watched the Brady Bunch. I wish I was a Brady.
No one ever gets punished on the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, like it turns out that it's just needless complication where people are trying to create conflict for the sake of an episode. Um,
Right.
I mean, it's the interesting thing. It's like we think of TV as comforting, but TV is driven by conflict. Like
Yeah. But it's all
every part of
conflict.
TV is either some secret is being held or somebody's trying to kill you or something. There's always conflict.
Right. So there's always conflict, but it's conflict that is usually resolved within 30 minutes to 40 minutes,
Right.
like it's
But sometimes
conflict.
not. I mean, like there's a lot more continuity now in television.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe this type of criticism is going to go away, but it seems like at least for the 2000s as a decade and also the 90s and the 80s,
The 90s,
the idea of
yeah.
television, you make fun of it by saying, oh, it's TV isn't like real life because it's episodic, it's not serialized.
Right, exactly. And like that's so they have the actual Brady Bunch in Day by Day, but they're all much older.
Yeah.
And I think
But they're all just pretending to be the same age as they were when it was airing.
Like one of them is pregnant, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was funny.
And so, but like the thing that sort of freaks him out is that, everything stays the same, is that the characters just do the same thing over and over and over again. Mrs. Brady,
I think it's actually pretty funny. I really like this one.
I thought it was good too.
They keep doing like a joke where Dad Brady, I don't know, I never watched the Brady Bunch. Yeah. Dad Brady is like, he'll start a speech but then kind of cut himself off and just say, I'm glad we had this talk. And Mrs. Brady just keeps drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Just constantly.
Right.
There's a joke where they say, me and my brother, we're going to go fix our bikes. And then it's like, do you want to ride your bike to the mall? Oh, we don't ride our bikes. We just fix them.
And all the Brady men have perms. So, he has to get a perm.
Yeah.
It's
60s, whenever it was.
And clearly all of the members of the Brady Bunch are like having a blast, like sending up the show.
Maybe. I don't know. It's possible that they hate it.
Maybe.
That they hate people making fun of them and their characters. I don't know.
It seems like they're having a good time. But it's a fun episode to just sort of like watch.
And then they kind of do a self-referential thing where at one point Jan says, I wish I was on the Partridge Family, Yeah. I kind of want to see a sort of nesting doll version of this where
the Bradys end up in the Partridge Family.
Right, a nesting doll where one character wishes that he was on TV and then another character from that show wishes that they were on TV, and it just keeps going forever.
Forever. The real Russian doll. There's also another show that I never watched, but classic sitcom, Growing Pains.
This one's more of a classic than Day by Day. I think people know this one.
Yeah. This is a very meta episode.
Right.
That we'll
this
see
is
other...
the sort of refugee from TV land thing we were referencing earlier. Because Ben wishes life could be more like TV, but instead of going into TV, he ends up on the set of a sitcom called Meet the Seavers, which is just basically Growing Pains.
Yeah, basically Growing Pains. And all the actors are themselves, and they're like, this guy's crazy. Like, what's he talking about?
They make a joke about how two of the sibling characters are dating in real life. Their actors are, I should say.
Yeah. It's enjoyable. The poor kid, of course, is like panicking, and this one gets weird in that like the one brother is like, of course I'm your brother. I've been trapped here for 20 years or like whatever.
Right. That's an interesting twist to that. It's instead of him being the only one who recognizes it, his brother is like, finally, I'm not alone in this horror dimension where everybody thinks I'm a character in a TV show.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But so, he eventually wakes up and it was all a dream. And he sort of goes to his parents and is like, listen, I really am sorry for taking the car out when I don't have a driver's license.
Again, it's about punishment and how, for some reason, the idea is that on TV, kids are not punished as much, which in my experience has never been the case. like
Yeah, they're
of
always punished,
television.
and they just like get
That's where the episode ends, I guess, is the point. Like after you punish them, it cuts to credits because there's no point in watching somebody be grounded. Not interesting TV.
yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
like that seems to be the conception of a lot of the kids in these shows that like, oh, if I lived in TV, I wouldn't get punished for anything bad I do. And so that happens in the Meet the Seavers universe. But he's like, it wouldn't go down like that. My parents
right.
would have punished me. This
Yeah.
isn't real.
I want my real parents. Like, I
But
don't
his
want
real
these
parents are
fake.
still sitcom characters. Alan
Right.
Thicke is not his real dad.
I know. It's
Whatever.
it's quite a it's that weird disconnect between the fact that it's a TV show about a character wanting to go back to real life, but it's
Right.
still just the TV show.
I think
I
that's
think in
actually the last
no, there's
coma,
Scrubs.
right? So,
The
so like
last
yeah, Scrubs is like a fantasy sequence, but it's the last like coma or dream sequence that we have on this list.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So let's talk about Scrubs real
Scrubs.
fast.
Yeah. Scrubs is like in the genre that I would call multi-camera sitcoms making, or sorry, single camera sitcoms making fun of multi-camera sitcoms.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
which is a pretty common thing on this list, even if it like is only for a scene. But
Yeah.
basically, Zach Braff, what's his name?
Zach
I
Braff.
don't watch the show.
It's Zach.
What's his character's name?
JD.
Right. JD meets the writer for Cheers who is dying of cancer. Um, and so he just imagines that what would life be like if we were on Cheers, and so it
Yeah.
switches to a multi-camera format instead of a single cam, which
Right.
comes with a
So,
laugh track
mhm.
and more family friendly jokes, I guess. Like
I mean, I guess, or just like more simple jokes, like more kind of
sure.
obvious jokes. It also comes with, sexier outfits for the female
Right.
co-stars.
That aspect I didn't get because Cheers was not well known for sex appeal.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's just Cheers. I think it's also
Right. It's all of
like modern multicam, of the 90s where it was like the hot wife or like all the women
all right.
are
I'll
slightly
I'll
hotter,
buy it. Yeah.
Um and they need to either fire a cafeteria worker or find $27,000, and of course there's conveniently a talent show
Right, but this is the
for
interesting part is that like the fantasy sequence doesn't start until halfway through the episode, but all
yeah,
the like conflicts in the like multicam universe are the same as in their real life. They're just sort
right,
of elevated a little bit, and so you
yeah,
have a talent show instead of the guy just getting fired, and you have
right,
playful misunderstandings instead of a married couple arguing
right,
um, about their relationship problems, and you have the person having his the person who's dying of cancer. Oh, whoops! We mixed up your chart with this
right.
anti-Semite, and it's okay if he dies.
Right. Well, and also, like, oh, well, we'll make your last few days, we'll fill your bucket list, we'll take you to a carnival for the first time and go on a hot air balloon and face our fears,
Right. So
like,
yeah, it's a pretty common sort of trope in sitcoms. I think I've seen
yeah,
that before.
yeah. But of course, the real episode ends where it's saying, like, but life isn't like a sitcom. There's no easy endings. Your
Right, which is
relationship
weird
problems.
because it is a sitcom with a lot of easy endings to a lot of their plots, right? I
I
mean, there's
mean,
more continuity in Scrubs than there was in Cheers, but not by
yes.
that much.
I mean, I would say that, it varies episode by episode. I think Scrubs does usually end on sort of like bittersweet notes, where
Mhm.
because it's still also it's a comedy, but it's also a hospital drama. Like
Right,
that's the sort of grounding
gimmick.
element of Scrubs, I
Yeah,
guess. And so, I think it ends on a nice note. It's a fun episode.
yeah. That's a good one. Let's just jump to another random one.
Yeah.
There's a couple one where it's only like a quick scene, so let's talk about those. The
Sure.
Simpsons has a quick scene in one of their Treehouse of Horrors where the kids are sucked into the Itchy and
Itchy and
Scratchy
Scratchy.
cartoon. So the world operates on cartoon logic, which again, weird because The Simpsons also sometimes operates on cartoon logic.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then it's just
Bart,
the violence of the show is
yeah.
displaced.
Yeah, like, Bart shoves plutonium into the remote battery slot, and that's how they like end up zapping themselves in the first place. And
Right.
Bart gets eaten by piranhas at one point, and then to fix them they have to press rewind on the remote.
Right. It's a magic remote. There's a
Yeah,
lot of magic remotes in here.
yeah.
It just is the way it is because remote
it,
control.
it's magic.
That's an interesting thing. Is like if this trope had started earlier, maybe it would have been different because there didn't used to be remote controls.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but again, I think that goes back to why this is such a modern trope.
Right.
It's this idea that we have this magic wand that gets to take us to this place that never changes.
Right. Yeah.
And that's because, like you said, that's what history was, or that's what TV was for a lot of history.
Right.
There's also a
The
Proud
Proud
Family.
Family
Yeah.
has a weird little scene that just comes out of nowhere in the middle of a random episode where Oscar, the dad from the Proud Family, just gets sucked into the TV for no reason. I mean, it's not a magical TV or anything.
Right.
And then he just gets tackled by football players for like a minute
For comedy.
for
Uh,
comedy.
and then he comes back out. Though I think, like part of that episode is low key that like Peebo, I think is the name of
Yeah,
the kid, is like
Peebo.
low key kind of like magical esque. Like, he's always able to like appear in the house no matter how many times he sort of gets like kicked
I think it's
out
just like
and
cartoon
what
logic,
have
but
you.
it's just weird. Like he's just fixing the TV and then just whoops,
It might
I'm in
also
the
be that.
TV.
It might also be that.
Yeah. All
Now
right,
I'm
what
in
do
the
we talk about
TV.
next?
Um, yeah, there's also a New Zealand version of Goosebumps that's called a Freaky.
Yeah.
And this one, it's like a 3-part show, and the third part of this one episode called Mirror, Hitcher, and Sitcom. Sitcom obviously is the one
Yeah.
where a girl like fails a math test, and her like accountant dad, it's the best. He's like, if you fail this math test, you'll never grow up to be an accountant like me. Like me and your mother. And just like yelling at her about this, and she's like, math's stupid, I'm going to the mall, or I'm leaving, and she's like not supposed to go to the mall, but she does.
Mhm.
um and then at the mall there's a salesman who's like, try our basically like enhanced reality TV, which basically sucks her inside of it, and she becomes part of like a sitcom family.
Right.
But the
The
sitcom
horror of
family,
being in a sitcom. This kind of
right,
screen nightmares that like
yeah,
when the line between reality and TV is blurred, that's a horrible thing. And to be kind of trapped because of a TV show is also taking place within a TV screen. So
right.
the feeling of being trapped is kind of like a horror thing in that you're just like in a claustrophobic little box.
Right, right. I mean, that's less of the issue in this one. It's more the horror of like this family is gonna send her away to like a Swiss boarding school to like, because she's so good at math in this universe. Um and they're replacing her with like a talking dog. And she's like, oh no, this is terrible, I hate it, and then like manages to zap herself out.
Yeah.
And then goes home and is like, I love you, mom and dad, thanks for punishing me. And they're
Right.
like, actually, like we figured that we should help you instead of just punish you, so we've gotten you a Swiss tutor to teach you this. Also, we want to apologize for being so mean earlier, so we got you a dog. And it's
Oh
like,
no, the
are,
TV show was
or
real.
like it's becoming real, but it's like
It's
all positive.
realness.
And but she's like, oh no. And it just doesn't make any sense as like really a horror narrative. It's definitely flawed in that way.
Yeah. A couple of just random cartoon examples that I don't think we need to spend much time on.
Yeah.
The Mask cartoon
Oh
had,
my
Jim Carrey's The
God.
Mask had
This one
one.
was weird.
Well, it's pretty standard, I think. It's a
Yeah.
supervillain is a TV guy who wants to bring back his version of Twin Peaks because,
What was
and
it?
so
It
he
was
zaps the mask onto TV world, and then he's stuck there.
yeah. Well, but I like how he gets out. Is he finds a like live news broadcast and goes
Right.
there and then is back in the real world. Like I sort
Great.
of enjoy that consistency, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. It's an interesting little take.
I
There's
think it's a
also,
choice.
TV zombies, TV rotting your brain, same as the Teen Titans one.
Yes, yes, that is also part of this, is that the interference with the TV waves is destroying people's minds. Um,
Yeah. There
there's
was
also
also
the
the Robert Bakshi Mighty Mouse cartoon, Mighty Mouse New Adventures, which had a brief run,
yeah.
um, which was like it was like a character on TV being teleported to other TV shows
Yeah.
because Mighty Mouse was frequently would break the fourth wall.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because like there's a toddler who is changing the channels while watching Mighty Mouse is I guess the premise.
yeah,
And so Mighty Mouse pops into the other episodes as well. I
yeah,
love the Flintstones Jetsons mashup that
yeah.
is
The
in this one, the
Jetstones.
Jetstones.
Yeah, basically all of these parodies are Hanna-Barbera parodies, which makes
Yeah.
sense because Mighty Mouse comes from that zone.
Yeah.
Uh, the only ones that don't fit in that are they do a Rocky and Bullwinkle parody, which is also cheap children's animation, and the idea is like Robert Bakshi hated all of these cartoons from Hanna-Barbera because they were just cheaply made, mass-produced. There was no artistic merit to them.
Mm,
There was no heart to them, and the animation budgets were abysmal. Nothing
right.
moved like a
Right.
cartoon. Um, so he was part of like the guys who ended up bringing in that '90s wave of like artistic expression in animation.
Right.
So this is him commenting on what's come before, but he's also making fun of like Saturday morning cartoons, which also had very limited animation budgets, like
Yeah.
the real Ghostbusters. So they call
Mm-hmm.
it the real Gag Busters, and they're serious anime boys who
Right.
eat jokes. All right, whatever, I get it.
Or I mean it's like both a Ghostbusters parody and like an anime parody in one, where it's like, what are these cartoons that aren't funny? Terrible. I hate it.
I guess that's what he thinks. He probably likes anime though. I
I
mean, you can
mean,
definitely see that influence on a lot of his like film work. But anyway,
yeah.
moving on.
That's Mighty Mouse. We also have two sort of Ghostbusters episodes, the
Right. I
real
don't know if either of them
Ghostbusters.
count though. Like,
They're
because
both weird.
we decided to limit this one not to TV shows going into other TV shows.
Right.
Not movies where they go on to the TV, or
Yeah. Or into
TV
video
shows where they get sucked into a
games,
movie. So this
or
one,
where the TV
I don't know if it
becomes
counts.
real. Yeah, because in this one, they have TV ghosts who like pop out of a television, like the TV is
Right.
haunted and so it spits out like real versions of like monster versions of what's
TV
on TV.
objects.
Yeah.
So, I mean, possibly notable because it has another Leave It to Beaver parody called Leave It to
Yeah.
Woodchuck, which all of
Yeah.
these shows have a Leave It to Beaver parody.
It's great. They also do a commercial parody in this one as well. But
Yeah.
then there's another one which I feel like this one might count, where it's like a Walt Disney type character's mansion has been like haunted or
Haunted.
something.
Yeah. So they
So
get
they
sucked into cartoon land, which
yeah,
is
where
kind
it's
of like TV world,
it's sort
especially in
of
this time.
yeah, it also seems similar to like Roger Rabbit, like Toon World a little bit.
Toontown, yeah. Maybe.
Toon
I don't know.
exploitation. That seemed to be like the weird theme of it, is like the Toons were seeking revenge on like Walt
Right.
Frisbee or whatever his name was. And because he initially just like dreamed them up, but then made Cartoonland a real place and would like just film things happening to people there. And so like they were taking revenge by like dropping him through trap doors as many times as they had been dropped and pieing him in the face and what have you.
It's like, oh, I wish life was more like a cartoon.
No,
but
you don't.
They're already cartoons.
Yeah,
it's the real Ghostbusters.
Like that's the especially weird thing where you know, characters who are already cartoons are like, whoa, I'm a cartoon now, and you're like, but you always were. You know, you gotta sort of squint at it a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, we did skip one that was imagination based as well.
Oh yeah.
I'm realizing the Rugrats episode.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I skipped it because it was a cartoon as well, and the power of the Rugrats imagination transcends reality. So
I mean, yes.
Basically the TV goes out, and so all the kids climb into a cardboard box and just make up their own TV shows.
It's great.
I like it. This one surprisingly has like fewer like cartoon references and sitcom references that like kids might get. And instead is like a game show, a makeup commercial parody, soap opera parody called The Teeny and the Tiny, The Young and the Restless.
Right.
The evening news, and then a police procedural.
Right.
Like, it's weirdly not kid-centric.
I kind of like that though, because I feel like, you know, as a young kid, if you're just end up like flipping through channels or watching TV with your parents, you know, this is like the weird stuff that you sort of see and don't really understand. And so like, here's someone sort of making a digestible, goofy version of that boring stuff your parents watch.
Yeah, this one is interesting because it's not just TV through TV's eyes, it's TV through adults' idea of what kids are watching when they're watching TV.
Yeah. and then acting that out. It's really
there's a nice
fun.
little like speech that the babies give when they're like, TV was our best friend. It was our window to the world. But by the end, they're, you know, basically treating it like it's just a big box with lots of people who live inside of it.
Right. We just got to be inside it and make the story happen. And, you know, the parents are like, maybe we'll leave the TV broken for a little bit.
It's so another sort of anti-TV TV show. It's like, imagination is better than TV. There
are a lot of cartoons on this. I would say it's majority cartoons.
But even like the live action shows are cartoons, like Community.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is another coma that we missed.
Yeah, I mean, it's this one is interesting because you know, you could also argue that if we're gonna count the coma, we can also count Abed's Christmas episode where everything is Rankin Bass stop motion. But that one is different because it's just that he's just saying that they're animated, and so we're seeing them as animated, but all the other characters know that they're not animated. Right.
Whereas in this one,
it's all in
Jeff is
Jeff's
in a coma
mind.
and he is in a parody of G.I. Joe called G.I. Jeff.
Yeah. It's great. Because you know, it basically parodies again like the low animation budget, but then all the things you don't see cartoon characters do. You know, so like
you never
Jeff,
see them kill each other.
Right. So Jeff actually kills like the Cobra Commander, and like all the cartoon people are like, what the fuck do we do? No one's ever killed anyone before. Like, we've been shooting at each other for years, but no one dies. Like, what is this? And then, you know, the other characters are kind of like, you know, we got to get out of the TV. How do we get out? Well, we have to go through the second layer of the medium, which is kids cartoon.
It's the boundary between cartoon and reality is kids TV commercials where you see the kids playing with the toys.
Right.
TV show.
So there's like a great layer to it where where, you know, like the kid, like there's a narrator narrating the cartoon commercial, and the kid's like making him zoom around, and he's like, he's doing this on his own. And he like rockets away.
Yep. And then he gets back to real life, and he realizes that he's getting older.
Yeah.
But that it's not necessarily a bad thing, just like Timmy Turner.
And it's great because it ends, the tag for that episode is like, here's today's lesson, kids, where Britta's like, don't spray paint things. And, you know, is trying to impart like a real message. And Abed's like, no, you got to keep it simple at the end of a sitcom so people can digest it. And she's like, that's what their problem is. And he's like, too late. Episode's over.
Yeah, it's, you know, Britta, her character is defined by her long, complex political screeds. So she gives that to the kids. Because her characters in the G.I. Joe world is called Buzzkill.
Buzzkill. She's got a buzz arm, a buzz saw for an arm.
Makes sense to me.
I love it.
Other cartoons.
I also love the rejected G.I. Joe characters that show up in the G.I. Joe prison.
Right, sleep apnea.
Like shark hands.
Right, and sleep apnea is just Dan Harmon.
Yeah.
Just sitting there. Other cartoons, Kim Possible had one.
Oh,
you
so
guys
good.
might remember.
God, I have not watched Kim Possible in so long, and going back and watching this was just absolutely delightful.
I've never been like a big Kim Possible guy. I don't know why it didn't connect with me, but this episode was fine. It was basically just the same as, you know, your average like sucked into the TV episode.
Yeah.
You know, they go through a bunch of different TV shows. They have a puppet show and a Star Trek parody.
I would say this one is similar to Channel Chasers in that, you know, it's, or I guess Teen Titans, really. It's more similar to Teen Titans, where they're sort of just like randomly being propelled throughout these channels because of like a dimension vortex or what have you. You know, and it's great because the villains are in there with them. So like you get to see like Draco and Shigo, or it's not Draco, it's Draken. That's what it is. Draken and Shigo like put in all these ridiculous situations where she's like a nurse on like a hospital procedural, and you know, he's on like a game show, and you know, just ridiculous things.
I think the most notable thing in this one is Evil Eye for the bad guy.
I loved Evil Eye for the bad guy.
Obviously a parody of Queer Eye. And it's just they're super villains who give Draken a makeover.
Yeah.
That's it. It's funny.
They fix up his lair. It's very fun. There's a fun Star Trek. Star Trek also pops up in a lot of these. Again, sort of that classic TV touchstone.
Yeah, in the Kim Possible episode, they make a joke about if you're wearing a red shirt, you're gonna die because it's Star Trek.
Yeah.
They have at one point they flash to that 1670s show.
I love this
because parody of the 70s show.
As a kid, I did not get this at all, but like seeing it now, I was like, "Oh, I love this. This is delightful."
Right, but like, what kid? I don't know. Do kids watch that at the time? I don't know.
I mean, like older kids maybe, because like I definitely watched that 70s show in my youth. I just don't know if it was my Kim Possible watching youth.
Right. A parody of Friends called Pals, and they have catchphrases.
Yeah.
They make a joke about their catchphrases, I guess. That's it. That's Kim Possible.
Yeah, that's Kim Possible.
There's also great. I guess notable in Kim Possible is the fact that they keep talking about cable as like a new thing.
Yeah.
But also as like a thing that everybody's already got. Kind of an advertisement for Disney Channel itself, maybe. Okay. Do you want to do DuckTales next?
Yeah. That's a good one.
There was a good one in the 2017 reboot of DuckTales, which
is great.
They're doing Quack Pack, which was the weird sequel series to the original DuckTales, which just had Donald watching Huey, Dewey, and Louie as teenagers. This one comes about because Donald wishes that life could be more like TV on
Yeah.
a genie who featured in the DuckTales movie, which is another weird reference to the DuckTales lore.
Yeah, it's interesting because it opens sort of like in media res, and then we like only find out later that the reason that this is all happening is because Donald made this wish on a genie that he like
right, and of
found.
course, who is the one who figures this out? But the duck that's played by Danny Pudi, who also plays Abed. So all the characters that he plays, I guess, are supernaturally aware of their genre and medium.
Right, and he notices a laugh track, and this is another one where they acknowledge the fourth wall, and they all look out at the audience and are like, "Oh, whoa!"
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they look out at a studio audience instead of looking out and seeing a TV watching audience on their couch at home.
Yeah. But this one is just full to the brim of like classic sitcom tropes. It's great because Donald has like a real voice. He's not just like the like quacking monstrosity that is normally his voice.
He wishes that they could be like a normal family, so he has a normal voice.
Right, and the whole issue is he wants to take a family photo, and they have to get the office ready in time, and the photographer doesn't show up, or someone thinks he's a spy, and so and they all have a catchphrase. That's like a parodied at one point, as they all say their catchphrase.
Yeah, they've got a wacky dancing transition, kind of like in that '70s show, and I'm sure that's from actual '70s sitcoms as well.
Yeah.
And they've got soda commercials and product placement ends up saving the day.
Yeah.
They do a joke about lower third ads, those things where you've got the two guys leaning against each other,
like in the corner.
In the corner advertising a new show that's coming out.
Right.
TV executives call them snipes. Just a little tidbit there. They have a flashback at one point, and then Goofy even shows up.
Yeah,
guest star. As like the wacky neighbor.
But then, they all think he's part of the genie magic, but no, it turns out Goofy just like was actually there the whole time.
Right, because that's just what Goofy.
It's Goofy, man, sometimes. And he delivers the heartwarming speech about family and how the best photos aren't the staged ones; they're the ones that capture real life as you're living it with your family.
And that's why Donald wishes that everything go back the way it was.
Right.
Also, the studio audience become ravenous zombies that try to attack them.
Yeah.
Because they've rebelled against the illusion of the sitcom.
Yeah. They'll got to keep them in their place.
They also explain that the reason that the show is like a 90s sitcom, the show that they're in, is because the genie has been trapped in the bottle since the 90s.
Yeah, for so long, since the 1990s. Whoa.
I mean, this is just like fan service out the wazoo, and it kind of works within its own story. So, I mean, lots of props to the writers on DuckTales. I think they're doing a great job.
Yeah, it's delightful.
More ducks. Let's do more ducks.
Oh, Darkwing Duck.
Yeah. This one's both the sucked into the real world and sucked into the TV. They do both.
It's very strange.
Well, Darkwing Duck, he's a superhero, so of course you have a supervillain who invents a device that can take you into TV.
It's basically Control Freak, or Control Freak is basically this.
Right. So in the beginning, Megavolt is the character's name, is like jumping into all these different TV shows, like a Jeopardy parody and a show called Opal Windbag, which is Oprah Winfrey. Of course. They do a horror B-movie thing again, black and white movies. They do a Carson reference. He says, like, here's Megavolt. Like, here's Johnny. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they bust out of the TV and they're in the real world, but it's still animated.
Yeah.
And they go and visit the executive producer of the show that they are on.
Yeah, who apparently came up for the idea for the show by putting on this helmet that gave him like access to their dimension of reality, and he just
Right,
basically
yeah.
writes down what actually happens. And so,
Right. He's a
Darkwing
plagiarist.
is like, cut me in on the profits, man. But I do love that they're just like, everyone's noses here are really weird. Like, what are these weird
Yeah.
mutants, these humans?
Yeah, but then at the end, it's also funny that like they destroy the thing that's allowing him to copy the Darkwing Duck universe,
Yeah.
but now it's tuned into the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers universe, so they have a new show.
Yeah. Very very meta, very about the business of TV.
Right. Yeah.
You know, making fun of just all the classics.
Right.
50s sitcoms, soap operas, talk shows, quiz shows, etc.
Did you know before going through this list that Bill and Ted had 2 TV shows?
I did not. I knew only of the movie, and that was it. And now I live in a world where I know that there is not only a Bill and Ted live action sitcom, but a Bill and Ted cartoon as well.
Yeah, I believe the cartoon came first.
I would believe it.
But that's a weird one. So they just go into an episode of Leave It to Beaver, but it's, a parody. And then they just are in that episode, even though their machine is supposed to be like a time machine, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very weird. I don't know. The Bill and Ted ones were weird. The whole point is that like God.
Right. In the cartoon one, they go to Leave It to Beaver Land, and they make fun of the fact that it's in black and white and that the kids aren't stylish. So they take the kids to the modern day and dress them up in like 80s Bill and Ted clothes, 90s Bill and Ted clothes.
And teach them how to be cool and excellent.
Teach them how to be cool. The plot goes basically nowhere, and there's like a threat that Leave It to Beaver is going to get destroyed by their presence there, but it doesn't make any sense, and they don't explain it.
Yeah, and they're like the villain of Leave It to Beaver tries to like escape, or
he tries to take over the show because the main characters are missing. It's just confusing.
But it doesn't work, and it's confusing. And then the Bill and Ted
live action show is less confusing, but
just way
terrible.
More transphobic and like awful. So like the one guy is, who is it? Ted's stepmom.
Yeah.
Or no, it's Bill's stepmom. Who's like a young woman, barely older than him.
Right, that's the joke.
Yeah, she loves the soap opera, and that's what gets her in the mood to have sex. But then it turns out that the steamy, like, male love interest is gonna like have a sex change operation to become a woman. Right. And she's like, I can't watch this show. How could they? He's so handsome, wasting it becoming a woman.
So Bill and Ted zap themselves into the show to convince a character not to transition.
Yeah, and they do it in like the worst way possible, in that like this character was apparently being tricked into thinking they wanted to transition by a blackmailed therapist.
But it's not even like, they don't even say like, you've tricked me into transitioning, but like, you've encouraged me to follow my truth.
Yeah,
it's like the line that she uses, I guess.
It's
confusing in this case because it's a fictional character within a fictional show.
Right, and so it's also stupid because they only get involved because his dad isn't getting laid. They can't use the garage to like do their band practice anymore, and that's the only reason.
Stupid contrived sitcom plot. But
it's
the joke, gross. They're making fun of the fact that soap operas have even more contrived and secret based plots. So they just like recap a bunch of twists and turns in the soap opera universe, and like that's supposed to be a joke like on soap operas, but it's like, your plot is stupid too.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty dumb. There's a couple of other dumb ones, like the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. They are inside like a Frankenstein movie and, have to zap
Yeah.
out. Like it's pretty basic
For
stuff
those of you who don't
there.
know the plot of the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, it's like the weird outlier of the Scooby Doo universe. There's no
Yeah.
Velma, there's no Fred,
There's
there's
no
just
Shaggy.
Flim
Oh, there is
Flam
Shaggy.
and Vincent Van Ghoul.
Yeah. I don't understand. They're very strange.
Flim Flam is like a kid who does like magic tricks, I think. And Vincent
I
Van
guess.
Ghoul is Vincent Price just being Vincent Price and
Yeah.
also and also being a wizard who needs to capture ghosts.
A couple of other notable ones. There's a couple like Disney Channel live action ones. There's the famous Jett Jackson TV show, which its finale was sort of this like movie where
Yeah.
Jett Jackson and his TV character that he plays, like Silverwing or something like that, kind of switch places through like
Right.
like
So
a
again, it's both
fictional.
trapped in TV land and refugee from TV land at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And also maybe all fake, but maybe real. Like the grandmother confirms that it's real, but it's kind of just like, it's basically about the kid trying to come to terms with whether or not he wants to continue being on this TV show or not.
Right.
And then like the Silverwing from the TV show deciding about whether or not he wants to go back into the TV show because he likes just being a normal kid.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
It's Silverstone, right? Not the
Silverstone, that's what it is.
yeah, that's the name of the show that he's
Yeah.
on. I never
Yeah.
watched the famous Jett Jackson
Me either. I think this
show.
was a little bit before our time. We were a little
Yeah.
bit young for
Um,
it.
apparently the actor committed suicide somewhat recently,
Oh,
so
dang.
kind of is it's not really a show to go back to, I don't think, for that reason. But
I don't know. Damn.
I don't know.
Sort of
I
at a
just felt
loss
like I had to
now.
bring that up. That the actor is. I
Yeah.
felt like it'd be weird to not bring it up.
I mean, that's
Weird to
that's
bring it up
fair.
too.
I enjoyed it. I think it was, it was fine. It was very Disney Channel, very saccharine, very, family is
Right.
important and be true to yourself kind of stuff.
Okay.
Um
I think now we're
there
getting
was
into the juicy stuff. That's all that's left
yeah.
is real juicy stuff.
Yeah. So, well, there's also the That's So Raven episode where she's
Yeah.
got like a soup fever dream, and they do like I Love Lucy, and oh, that's just it. She's just on I Love Lucy.
That's it.
Yeah,
It's a really lame episode. It's not funny, but
it's
they
fine.
do an I Love Lucy parody, so we got to bring it up.
Gotta
This one's
talk
weird
about it.
because she's watching TV and it's her on the TV.
Yeah, she's like
is she
having a
stuck
fever
in
dream.
there, or is she just watching?
She's
I don't
having
know.
a fever dream because she had spicy soup, David. You're thinking too hard.
Okay, yeah, I'm thinking too hard about it. Yeah.
um the last one that I just want to throw out there is there's another weird Australian one called Round the Twist, which
Yeah, I
I
don't know
guess
what this show is normally.
I don't
What is
know.
the show when it's not
It
this?
seems like a family sitcom that like weird freaky things happen to them all the time. But in this one, they sort of all try to watch TV at the same time. And so they get transformed into like versions of their favorite TV persona. One of them's a detective, one's like a news reporter, and then the other one's like a sports star.
Right.
And the lesson that they end up learning is that TV is fake and manipulated,
Yeah.
and that
You should go play outside.
yeah, you should go play outside is basically it. And they all turn into babies at the end. It's very strange.
Yeah, that's the really weird part is they put in a they put in a baby video and then they get turned into babies.
Yeah.
Weird. There was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show, where
this one also had a Leave It to Beaver parody.
Yeah.
Where they think they're Russian spies, and then they have to like
right.
zap
They specifically
around.
are like they call them fascists and like they try to make a call to Hoover's G-men.
Yeah.
Like this is clearly just making fun of like the Cold War era politics and not
Yeah.
even like the conservative family stuff, but just like the xenophobic stuff.
Right.
Which is weird.
I'll also give this one a nod for being just like clearly written for like a smarter audience, or like a more like,
adult, but I don't know if it's smarter. I
don't
found
know
this one really obnoxious.
I mean, it was definitely obnoxious, but like it's certainly, you know, for the more erudite among
right. There's
us.
a part where they look themselves up in a TV guide, and like in it, the like older sister character is referred to as a nymphette, and and they have a whole riff on it, and it's weird. And then the boy is referred to as a boy genius, and she's like, that's sexist how they refer to him as a boy genius, and I'm just a nymphette.
Yeah,
weird.
It's all weird.
But and then they just climb out of the TV show on a ladder.
Yeah, the like mother at home figures out they're in the TV and puts a ladder in there, and then they can just climb
it's like
out.
After an hour of them doing stuff, and then they just climb out of the TV show on a ladder.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. It's fine. All right, so we've been talking for like an hour and a half now.
Right, but we do need to talk about.
But we do need to talk about Drama World and Supernatural. That is the last.
Or I will never forgive myself.
Yeah.
Drama World first. Let's do Drama World.
Yeah, let's do Drama World. Why don't you start Drama World, David?
Okay, you guys, if you want to pause this right now and just check out Drama World on Viki, which is a weird new streaming site.
It's also all on YouTube.
It's also all on YouTube. But just check it out before I give away the premise. Here it comes. A fan of Korean dramas, K-dramas, a white American fan of K-dramas, gets sucked into the world of K-dramas, wherein all of the characters are like constantly have their memories wiped and reincarnated for each show.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of rules that like the show can resolve only when there's true love's kiss, and all of the coincidences in K-dramas, which there are a lot of coincidences in K-dramas, are caused by characters called facilitators.
Right.
Who get sucked in from the real world to make all of the love happen. So that it doesn't collapse.
Yeah, it's very crazy. But like I can't decide if I like the show or if I hate it. Like,
I like it and I hate it. It's such an interesting premise. It's so bizarrely produced. It was shot like almost entirely like on location in Seoul.
Yeah, but also parts of it in Los Angeles.
Right. Well, the parts that take place in Los Angeles.
Okay. Yeah.
And the main character, who is Abby from Santa Clarita.
Oh, I never watched.
They're like
Santa
a real
Clarita.
actress.
Actor.
The point being, like, their performance is so weird. I think it's like the directing, or the fact that like it was hard to work with people who spoke only Korean and people who spoke only English and people who spoke both languages. But like the acting is just off. It's
just like it's like almost too earnest a lot of the times, and all the time. And the episodes are only like 17 minutes long. Like they're very short. And they're full of like inside trope references to K-dramas, but then also, like romantic comedies kind of in general. Where there's always a meet cute, and the leading man always has to catch the lady if she's falling.
Right, I love that joke. That anytime anybody faints or pretends to faint or falls, the leading man has to catch them no matter where they are. And then when they don't, it's like, oh my god, something's changed.
And, I love that even though they're mostly concerned with, the main plot that she was sort of sucked in to help rectify, she also at first is just like, someone gets hit by a car and she runs over to them and they're like, "You're my true love," like, just because that's the trope, the guy gets hit by the car and then the first person he sees, he falls in love with.
And then the theme in this one is kind of interesting and complicated, which is the main character loves K-dramas because they feel like, she feels like she's not a main character in her own life.
Yeah. And she
And
feels
she
like
feels like she
exciting
can,
things don't happen in real life, and that,
right,
real life is kind of meaningless, and, it's just all coincidences. But then in K-drama, nothing's a coincidence. Everything is planned and narrative.
right. But also it's like when she's in the world, she thinks like, oh, this is perfect. I'm such a side character. I should
Yeah.
be the side character if I'm in a K-drama.
Right.
But then she is like bamboozled into becoming the leading lady.
Sort of, yeah.
Whereas the villain of the story is somebody who is trying to force himself into the leading man role.
Right. Because he's fallen in love with the leading lady after, countless K-dramas of facilitation.
Right. So it's about like cultural appropriation and white people and Americans inserting themselves into K-dramas.
Right.
But also it's not about that at all.
Yeah, because like the white girl gets the Korean guy in the end. Like
yeah.
that.
There's also a thing where the reason that they can all understand each other is because subtitles exist in this world. So everyone can just kind of speak any language.
Though the people who can speak both languages usually do go back and forth depending on who they're talking to. And they honestly do it flawlessly. Like, major kudos to both of the bilingual actors in the show. I think they do a pretty decent job.
So this show is just crazy, and
it's
you kind of have
absolutely
to check it
insane. And it ends on a wild cliffhanger that
that will never be resolved
here.
Because this show finished in 2016 and it is probably not going to get picked up because
I don't know. Season 2 is in production according to Wikipedia. I don't know.
So are a lot of things that are definitely not in production. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
We'll see.
Okay.
Supernatural.
Anything else to say? Supernatural. Let's do Supernatural.
So at first when I saw our watch list, I was like, 3 episodes of Supernatural? That's insane. And then I was like, wait a minute. These are like the 3 episodes of Supernatural besides like the first season that I've ever seen in my life.
Well, they're very memorable episodes.
Oh, yeah. They're fantastic. Like, they're absolutely great. So the first one is they get sucked into like TV shows by a trickster god.
Right.
The second one is where they end up,
they get thrown into an alternate dimension wherein they are actors putting on the show Supernatural.
Yeah. And then the last one, I remember this one coming out a couple of years back, is Scooby Natural, where they end up in an episode of Scooby-Doo due to a haunted television.
Right.
They're all great.
Classic. They're all great, and they're all completely unique to each other, but not unique to this list, for sure.
No.
I mean, changing channels, the trickster is basically, Control Freak.
Yeah.
Or any of these other villains.
Well, and
put onto the sitcoms, the whole moral of it is supposed to be like, you need to start performing your roles.
Yeah.
Because there's the whole subplot about how Dean and Sam are the Antichrist and the
Christ, kind of respectively,
savior angel, the archangel incarnate, and they're gonna have to fight to the death to decide the fate of the universe.
Yeah. And this guy is like, just do it because I want you guys to get it over with.
Right.
And
there's a commercial parody on this one, which is a parody of the Valtrex commercials where they say, I have genital herpes.
Yeah, it's great. And there's like a Japanese game show. It's called like Nutcracker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where if you answer the question wrong,
it's a really racist rendering of a Japanese game show. But whatever.
But it's another one where when he plays his role, he's able to like speak Japanese and answer the question.
Yeah, there's another round of making fun of multicam sitcoms from the perspective of your, single cam show and how it's fake and how they have laugh tracks and blah blah blah, and they eat sandwiches.
They have product placement, and there's like a spam container, but it's Smeat, and I love Smeat. It's Smeat.
There's a Knight Rider parody, which there was another Knight Rider somewhere on this list. But like that's a weird one to do, isn't it? Like why do we conceive of TV as Knight Rider?
I mean,
Like
I think it's just because so much of Supernatural is kind of about the car and like
sure.
loving the car. So I feel like they're kind
Right.
of like, we gotta do a Knight Rider. That one's also about
Right.
a car.
Maybe also Knight
Um,
Rider is just like a concept that would never work in any other medium. Like it's
yeah,
only a TV kind of thing. You
yeah.
know, like what are the shows that we keep seeing over and over again? Like Friends was on a bunch of them because
Mm-hmm.
that's like the 90s or early 2000s
Sitcoms.
sitcom.
Yeah.
You see Leave It to
Leave It to
Beaver
Beaver.
endlessly,
I
Star
Love
Trek as the
Lucy, Star
representation of
Trek.
sci-fi.
Yeah. Um, you know, the Brady Bunch,
Some
I
kind of
guess.
procedural, some kind of soap opera.
Yeah.
These can be more broadly construed, but in this one, the procedural is definitely CSI Miami because they're
Yeah.
doing the putting on the
The
sunglasses thing
sunglasses. Yeah.
and
And they're
doing a
wearing it at
pun.
night.
Yeah,
I think the best parody though from this one, from changing channels, is definitely the Grey's Anatomy parody with Dr.
yeah,
Sexy. It's
Doctor
just so
Sexy,
good.
very very on the nose, um, for sure.
It's so
Okay, and
good.
then yeah, at the end they just kind of get out of it by playing their roles, but then they also discover that the trickster is in the TV show with them, and then they douse him with the magic goo that defeats demons and
Right.
angels and whatever.
And they stake him and he dies. And it's
Right.
what have you. Um
Next to the French mistake, which I think we referenced for something else before, but uh, this is a crazy ass episode
oh
where
yeah.
to get them away from the dangers of the angels that are tracking them down to kill them. One of the angels, what was his name? But starts with a B.
Barry. I don't know. I don't remember.
Barry. Well, anyway, he throws them through a window into the
The real
dimension where
world.
they are actors making the supernatural show.
Right. And, you know, there's a
And
lot of inside jokes about the
absolutely,
fandom and, you know,
yeah,
because Dean is married in real life. The actor Jared Padalecki is married to an actress on the show who played like an arch villain.
Ruby, yeah, demon.
Um, yeah. And, you know, the,
So the
uh,
joke is just that they don't know who anybody really is, and the
right.
actor who plays Castiel is just like an
Misha
awkward,
Collins.
like, oh, I joined the show a little late. I'm just here to hang out, kind of
Yeah.
guy, which is very
And
different from
who tweets a lot, which
who
is
tweets a lot,
also Misha Collins' MO at the time.
right? And
This
it
was
also
like
just it
seconds.
has Sam and Dean being really bad actors, which is funny,
Yeah. You know, and it's great because, you know, they make jokes about the actors like not really talking to each other and secretly hating each other,
right?
and just like playing nice in front of the camera.
And the
Um,
thematic resonance is that in the real world, of course, we don't have to deal with demon attacks on a regular
right.
basis, but also we don't ever have any proof that God exists, right? Is that
Right.
the point? Did I
I
miss it?
mean, I don't know that's the point,
The
but
angel guy who follows them into this
yeah.
dimension keeps talking about how like you people have no gods, no truth in your life.
What a small world you live in, just
Right.
turning
There's
to
no
dirt
magic
at the
here.
end. Um, but I think, you know, the it's again, it's just another episode about brotherhood. Like,
Right, of course.
you know, it's like, but we're not even brothers in this universe. We have to go back, you know?
Right. And then
And they
there's Scooby
do.
Natural, which I think is
Which
pretty
is
self-explanatory. Did
it's
you have anything you'd like to point to
nope.
specifically in this one?
The ghost so I I do like this one because they sort of like tell the Scooby Gang that monsters are real and they all have like
Right,
nervous breakdowns. Like Daphne
right,
is like, is there a god? Like, what? Am I gonna
right,
go to heaven or hell? Like
right.
it's fun
I
and, you know,
mean, it's kind of weird considering that in Scooby Doo, they do often encounter real ghosts.
only occasionally though.
Occasionally they do in different continuities. But anyway,
Yeah.
um,
Um
this one, it's interesting because it follows the plot of an actual Scooby Doo episode. Like they picked a specific one, which you wouldn't think that they would have to do, but they did.
right. Well,
Um,
Yeah, so it's, the one where they have to stay in the haunted mansion to collect a
Right.
inheritance, basically.
It's good because the ghosts are really generic, so you
Yeah.
don't have to like have it be the clown ghost or whatever, but the plot is, really specific, so it doesn't feel like you're just setting it in the Scooby-Doo universe, you're setting it in an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Right. And they do jokes where Dean is trying to hit on
Right.
Daphne, and then Velma is
Terrible.
like secretly really into Sam because she likes big lunks or
Terrible.
whatever.
It's just
Uh,
awful jokes to watch and do.
um, Dean is just like thrilled to be in a cartoon where he can eat a big sandwich with a big mouth, and part of it is like, these were the things that no matter where our dad dragged us on the road as kids, like there was always a TV and Scooby-Doo was always on,
Yep,
like,
still found a way to make it about brotherhood somehow.
yeah. And of course Sam is the one who's like, no way, this is stupid, for like so much of it, and then turns out he watched the show too and knows how it
Yeah.
ends. And
I like that Castiel is their Scooby. He's their talking dog
yes,
character.
it's a fun, there's a great line where he's like, I used to lead armies, now I'm reduced to this.
Yeah. It's good. It's cheeky. The TV was haunted, and they solved the mystery, and it
Right.
turns out that it was a guy trying to get a real estate deal, just
Yeah,
like in Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo. So it's great in so many ways. They're all so enjoyable. These were,
Yeah.
and I love that each of them sort of represent a different side to kind of all of these sucked into the TV tropes that we've talked about.
Right. Last one, right?
Yeah, wait, is there one that we skipped? Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
DC Legends of Tomorrow,
DC
the
Legends
most
of
recent
Tomorrow.
example. We weren't expecting this, but while we were doing research for this episode, DC Legends of Tomorrow,
Just
the
pooped one
weirdest
out.
and maybe dumbest thing in the Arrowverse, I don't know.
Can't say.
It just came out with an episode where all the characters are sucked into a TV show. So we have the most up-to-date list for however long that lasts.
We did it.
So this one is like taking place in this most recent season where their main villains are the Fates, like from Greek mythology, and they've made it like 1984 everywhere. But in order to save the lives of the legends, they've put them all into a TV show to make propaganda for the Fates.
Yeah, and that's how, and like they don't remember their pasts or anything, and then they each sort of have to go along this like path of awakening through, I guess, means of one character's power or something, but it's unclear.
Yeah, you really have to kind of know these characters in order to get what's going on, which I definitely don't.
I was
but
very
I can appreciate
lost.
the TV parodies.
I just do love the fact that Sarah Lance has died yet again, which I'm sure is like the 12th time that she's died in the Arrowverse ever.
Right. Yeah.
It's wildly ridiculous.
Well, this is like the weird thing about the show too, right? Is that like one of the things that they're commenting on in TV is how like in TV the good guys always win and death is never permanent. And it's like, yeah, but that's absolutely true of your show as well.
It's so bad. They do so many different ones. The main parodies are Star Trek, Downton Abbey, Friends. And am I missing one? Is there a fourth one?
Yeah, Mr. Rogers.
Oh, Mr. Rogers, yes. And they do a little song that is performed half-heartedly by two of the characters.
Very half-heartedly, about shoving down your emotions.
Yeah, it's a fun song.
You're not Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers would never say that.
Right. I did enjoy the shove down your emotions song.
Right. Repress.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's supposed to be like each of these shows is, he's propaganda for the fates, you know, telling people to eat their mush and not question reality.
Right, but it's like very communist propaganda, kind of like Russian.
No, it's 1984 propaganda. It's
well,
like,
yeah,
it's
but like
fascist.
they use that like Soviet kind of font and opening credits.
Right, because they used specifically the font from the film adaptation of 1984.
Okay.
I mean, it's explicitly
it's
a parody of
1984,
1984.
but like, you know, 1984 being a critique
Right.
specifically of communist propaganda.
The Friends parody is awkward because there's like siblings on it, but some of them know who they are and some of them think that they're just the character on the TV show.
Right, but they are siblings in the TV show, so it's not like a weird like incest thing.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying it's like weird because like you're seeing your brother, but it's like, hey sis, I'm this character on a wacky TV show.
Right.
And then High Castle Abbey. Is that a reference to something, High Castle, or is it just supposed to be?
It's Downton Abbey, but High Castle. Okay. I mean, maybe the man in the high tower. Like,
right. I don't know. Well, in that one of the characters' parents who had died is back from the dead.
Yeah.
But they're also making fun of the repressive gender roles on Downton Abbey.
Right. And you know, and I think my guess is that the character that the fellow crewmate is playing, you know, is she's sort of the irascible, like, I wish I could be more boyish.
Right.
But you know, she is looked down upon, and the guess is that that character is somewhat tomboyish on the show. Wouldn't know, haven't watched more than like 2 episodes of the show ever.
There's a Star Trek parody called Star Trip where the 2 co-captains of the spaceship in the DC universe are now co-captains of
Spock.
This other. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but like the way that they escape from the TV world is they let themselves be blown up, which would get them canceled, or they espouse propaganda that's against the fates directly into the TV, so they get canceled. So it's sort of like the idea that propaganda TV shows only exist as they support the system. Any TV show that's sufficiently against the system is going to get canceled by the powers that be.
Well, and this one also has like the weird message of like, get up off your couch and like rebel, like go out there, take to the streets. And it's like,
because TV's normally...
The CW doesn't want me to do that. They want me to get CWC'd and binge 12 seasons of Riverdale. There's 12 now, right? Like,
there's a lot. The point is, this show is not radical enough to get canceled because of its radicalness. Any show that's radical enough to get people off their butts to do the revolution is going to get canceled.
Right. But, ooh boy, was this one... another one that just really talked about everything that we've touched on.
I mean, I think we've covered it. I think we've got it.
While a lot of these, like the supernatural ones, you could pretty mumuch watch with no context and basically get it. This one, don't watch it if you don't watch the show, or like.
Yeah, but maybe we should watch the show. I don't know. It seems interesting. I don't really connect with the characters, but maybe that's because I don't have the whole Arrowverse and
it's all bad. Don't make me do it. It's very bad. I've watched too much Arrow already.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Arrowverse fans.
Sorry, not on your side on this one.
Okay, well, that's the most talking about TV that this show has ever been. I think.
This is truly TV, talking about TV tropes. The TV trope. The trope about
I don't think it's impossible that we missed some, but we definitely talked about a lot of these.
Yeah, if we did miss any, please let us know. Either tweet at us at Talking Tropes or comment wherever you found this podcast or video.
The videos are now going to be available on YouTube, hopefully from here on out, maybe with a few gaps depending on video errors in recording. But check us out. I'll link the YouTube in the description and tweet it out as well. And yeah, we'll see you guys for our 100th upload special, our 50th Talking Trope, our 100th episode that we've ever produced.
Big round numbers. Holy crap.
Round numbers are cool. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.